Hi there. So this was the trial that I did with 3 different food crop types and also 2 of them, and I only did 2 for space limitation purposes, were compared to how that would work with grow bags. So I planted the same leafy salads in the case of this wall in the wall as I did in the grow bags, and over in fruit, which I did as strawberries, I planted exactly the same runners, the strawberry runners, in the grow bag as I did in the wall, and compared the two to see whether you would get the same sort of results out of a grow bag as you got out of the living wall unit. So in terms of salads, this one's been changed over now, but from the start of April in the salad wall I grew at the bottom pea shoots. Then I had 2 layers of lettuce plants. Above that I had spinach to harvest as baby leaves, and on the top layer I grew nasturtiums direct from seed, and they were for both the leaves and the flowers. They all did really well, and compared to the grow bags it was similar. The living wall did actually grow more. The nasturtiums didn't germinate in the grow bag, but they did in the wall, but comparatively they weren't too far apart from each other. The changes on it now, as you can see, that I've had another go with supermarket herbs, because normally they don't always do brilliantly well for me, but these ones have. So in the bottom here I've got French tarragon, which I've really hit quite hard, so I've been cutting at that a lot. I've got supermarket basil that's growing reasonably well, supermarket coriander, which is busting out from here. I've got tomatoes in my polytunnel, but I did want to try the tumbling tomatoes that I've never really grown before, and I find these great for grazing, because you'll be walking past, find a ripe tomato, and then you'll just pluck it off as you go past, and they seem to be ripening 2 or sometimes even 3 tomatoes a day at the moment, which is fabulous. In the middle of the tomatoes I've got summer savoury. I have got a good container of winter savoury, but summer savoury is actually nicer. Above that, this is where I've started to really indulge my plant collecting fetish, and you can see that I've got 3 different plants up there. On the left hand side is tree spinach with the red new growth. I haven't grown that before, so I don't know how it's going to do. In the middle I've got more French tarragon, and on the right hand side I've got Vietnamese coriander again, which I have grown it once in the past, but I didn't ever use it, so I don't know what it's like as a herb to use in the kitchen. Moving on to vegetables then, you can see that I've still got 2 of the vegetable crops in there. So on this one, from the start of April until around the end of May, in the vegetable wall I grew spring onions that's still there in the bottom, beetroot that's still there, carrots which were directly sown, and then 2 successional sowings of radishes, and they all did really well. Spring onions won't be harvested as spring onions with a green shoot on them, because you can see the leaves have bent over, but there is a reasonably sized little onion in there that will soon be harvested and used in the kitchen. Above that, the beetroot have now reached kind of golf ball, slightly bigger than golf ball size, so they're soon to be harvested. And then above that, in the vegetables, the carrots, which were in this row here, they were stump rooted carrots, and in about a month and a half they reached harvestable size, and out of 1 layer there was enough as a really nice carrot side dish on 2 meals. So that's what you can do in terms of carrots. And the 2 successional sowings of radishes did what radishes do, which is grow really well. I'm not a huge fan of radishes, so I probably won't grow those again. And then in the replacement layers then, I've got lemon verbena, which you can see I've planted it on the side going that way, and the reason for that is because above them I've got directly sown watercress, and above that I've got directly sown rocket. They're both doing really well, but if I planted the verbena straight it would grow in front of them, and I'm hoping, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm hoping it will grow up the wall in between. The units are all going to be removed and put up either side of a doorway, because 5 trough units when you combine it into a 10 trough unit, if you've got two, they work really well either side of a doorway. So I've measured up, and after this wall's been rendered, I'm going to swap them all around. In the middle of this, I've got some sorrel, which I do like, but again, I haven't grown much of it before because I haven't had the space for it. And variegated land cress, which I've had in salads in other places, but I haven't grown myself before. A dwarf chilli squeezed in up there, and the watercress and rocket that I mentioned that are both in and doing really well. See if I can move the camera across a bit without knocking the thing off the table. There we go. So the strawberries, these were a June bearing type strawberry, so not an ever bearer type where they'll produce a small amount of strawberries over a long period. These started to crop in June. They were planted in April from runners that I bought from Pomona Fruits, and they were what they call super crowns, so they're quite a big runner, and they're ready to go. They got into leaf straight away. By around the middle of April they were flowering, and these water pipes here were there to hold a fleece covering that was over them in April. So during April I did have to open the cover up and use a paintbrush to hand pollinate them, which I personally found quite therapeutic, but whenever the cover was up you got pollinating insects in there anyway. And they started cropping around the end of May, and for the whole of June they pretty much did around about 500 gram punnets, which is about a cereal bowl full, around about every 5 days. Towards the end of June it did get a little bit more, and that carried on really until about the first to the middle of the second week in July. At the moment you can see that they need maintenance, and the maintenance they need is to remove any old flowering trusses that are in there, remove any runners that are coming out, remove any discoloured or battered leaves, and then feed them. During the time they were cropping I fed them with the same tomato food that I use because that's good for producing fruits. But at the moment, to build a good crown for next year, they need a general purpose feed, which I will water into the actual trough itself rather than into the watering reservoir fill point at the side. In terms of comparison, the strawberries did exceptionally better in the living wall. Crop weight from the grow bag was hardly anything. In fact, it's still doing the odd strawberry now. I've seen you see it. There you go. And that's pretty much what they do. They manage the odd ripe strawberry every now and again, and particularly as it started to crop at this time of year, it would really need to be netted because there's a good wasp population here, and as soon as they get about that red, you start to get wasps appearing on them. They didn't get off to such a good start, and quite often I just felt that they weren't very happy in there. So in terms of a grow bag comparison, with some things it's there or thereabouts, like the leafy salads, and with some things like the strawberries, these units actually work a lot better for them. And strawberries is one thing I'm going to focus on a lot more and see what I can do, certainly in terms of extending the cropping period, because it was amazing while they were cropping, but it seemed to be over a bit too quickly. I hope you found that interesting. I hope if you've got a unit, you've had some ideas. I'd be really interested in your thoughts or what you've been doing with your units, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.